let's talk a little bit about the instrument, about the arpeggione itself.
The Arpeggione, so in the beginning of the 19th century, there was a big hype in Vienna about guitars.
About the guitar, wow. Yes.
Yeah, Giuliani was there.
Giuliani, yes.
Giuliani, 1807, I think he arrived there. And it was like 20 years all over guitars, and everyone played guitar. And so there was a need also to develop this instrument to increase the sound even more. And so let's put it together with cello styles. And
let's put a bow on a guitar.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was this person who invented?
There are not only one person, but yeah, the historical battle was won by Johann Georg Stauffer. He announced it in 1823. He developed it together with his friend Vincent Schuster, who also wrote a method about it.
And Vincent Schuster himself was a friend of Schubert, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But there's also another guy who has to be mentioned about the invention. It was not far, only 250 kilometers in Pest. There was...
in Pest?
Yes.
Do you mean Budapest? In Pest?
Yes, exactly.
So that's my hometown. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was another one. There was Peter Teufelsdorfer.
Okay.
He
also
developed exactly the same thing, basically. And there was a battle in newspapers who, in the end, really invented it.
Okay, and Schuster was also the one who introduced the instrument to Schubert?
Yes, probably. They probably were a big friend community with this guitar maker who was very famous for his guitars, the Johann Georg Stauffer, and performed it in one concert. It's not sure if it's really that concert where the Arpeggione Sonata was performed first time, but there is some evidence that it's possible in 1824 that it was performed by Schuster and Schubert together.
Mm.
And but afterwards, this piece was forgotten for a long time. After the Arpeggione was forgotten too.
They were both forgotten. Why do you think the Arpeggione came out of style? It had a very, very short career, right?
Yeah, some years. You cannot really tell how long. But very soon after this invention, many players were recognized as players of the Arpeggione and virtuosos and everywhere. I would mention...
Spread like a disease.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was also one, the Heinrich August Birnbach.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled with a self-made soloistic piece for Arpeggione and orchestra.
A concerto.
Exactly. Because this was somehow the aim of developing the guitar, because the guitar was not able to perform with an orchestra. So with a bow, you have more sound.
You can amplify.
Yeah, you can amplify, you can sustain sound. This was the hope, probably, of the inventors. But yeah, the reviews were very bad. Also, in Vienna and in Berlin, it was also performed in Berlin, this concerto, as far as we know. Yeah.
Without much success.
No, it's always the thing, oh, it's a nice instrument, but it doesn't fit in the orchestra. It's too soft.
It's too soft.
It's
okay.
It has not the sound of the strong cellos and violins that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was forgotten very soon. In the meanwhile, in the 40s, this instrument came up.
Okay.
It's interesting that it was built in 1847 in Munich.
Who built this?
It was a lute maker.
A lute maker.
This is, as far as I know, the only Arpeggione he also built. Yeah, it's interesting because the Arpeggione hype was long ago, something like 20 years.
So why?
It's the question.
Okay.
We don't have an answer.
We don't know.
I spoke with Gerhart Darmstadt. He's teaching in Hamburg.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks that it's just a collector's unicat.
Yeah.
So that a collector said, oh, it's a very special thing. I want to have it in my collection. And so he ordered it, maybe, but it's only a thought why it could be built. I'm on it to search who was the first collector.
The first owner, yeah.
The last one I found out was was Maria Jäger-Jung. She's from Frankfurt, from here, and she was teaching from the 1940s here in Frankfurt, and she also initiated the early music department.
Teaching what? Teaching cello?
No, she was teaching keyboards.
Oh.
She had this collection, and she brought this instrument to the Frankfurt College of Music between her entrance and the meeting with Alfred Lessing, also a name I want to mention. Alfred Lessing was a big pioneer with Arpeggione playing. He was probably the first one after this Arpeggione hype in Vienna to play the Sonata of Schubert.
Yes.
On an Arpeggione in the 70s.
In the 1970s.
1970s, exactly.
Because it's also interesting to know that
Yeah.
the piece was first published in the 1870s, right?
Exactly.
You said
exactly.
something about it being only, it survived in a manuscript, but it was published so many years later, so.
Yeah, they couldn't sell.
They couldn't sell it.
They couldn't
before.
sell the manuscript until 1871.
Okay.
Because who wants a sonata of a forgotten instrument?
And for another 100 years, it was only played on a cello.
On
probably.
cello and viola and
Viola, okay.
and other instruments. It was also published as an arrangement for cello.
Yes.
Yeah. So
There are more, several editions for cello and piano. I have seen.
but the first, I mean the first published.
The first one.
You know, exactly.
And so 100 years later, the first person to play it on an Arpeggione again was this Alfred Lessing, who met with this Maria Jäger-Jung and also got to play this particular instrument. Do you know that? Or
Yes, I know that he has it, had it in his hands.
Okay.
Because he restored it.
He restored it. Okay.
Yeah, there was some. So we still have the original neck, but this neck is not original anymore. The original neck had something weird up here. Alfred Lessing thought it could be maybe a cut of the neck, because there were 2 frets less than now.
Oh.
So now we have 24 frets. It fits perfectly for the Sonata of Schubert. We really come here on the last fret in 2 or 3 moments.
Wow.
And so at the moment Alfred Lessing got this instrument from the Madame Jung, it was only 2 frets less, and he put them back to play the sonata.
And then what happened? What happened to the instrument? I think you
Ah.
found it with Heidi Kröger around, some years ago,
Yeah.
right?
We restored it together with a luthier in Cologne. Basically new bridge and new how is it called? I want to mention one thing in the present, which is kind of funny because it happens again, that the guitar increases gets a bowed instrument with the guitar viols. It's a hype in, I think it's basically in the United States.
Guitar viols?
Guitar viols, exactly.
Wow.
It's electric guitars first, got also a bridge and a bow, and then they play it for pop music, and many films now have soundtracks with guitar viols. For example, the Game of Thrones, not the main theme, but in other soundtracks.
Okay. I mean, I think we could talk about the piece a little bit, maybe the piece Schubert wrote, because I find it interesting, and I didn't know that Schubert also played the guitar himself. And as far as I know, recently you performed it on Arpeggione, but instead of fortepiano with the guitar. And I would be interested in knowing how the two instruments worked together.
Yeah, it's very different with a piano than a guitar.
I would imagine, yes.
Because the sound of a guitar is so much softer, and we also had a romantic guitar.
So you were the loud one.
I was really the loud one.
Okay.
I really had to be so decent as never.
Yeah, okay.
But it's even more this ease coming out. What they also mention in these first letters or newspapers where they announce the instrument, that it has this ease, that the piece sounds easy.
So this was being advertised, or what happened?
Yeah, there were some articles announcing, it's just announcement, like
Arpeggione.
Arpeggione, new instrument invented by Johann Georg Stauffer, and it's formidable and it's great. You should play it, something like that. And
Wow.
and it spread not only in Vienna. For example, there's also an interesting article in the newspaper Cecilia in Mainz.
In
So,
Mainz,
in Mainz.
very close to Frankfurt.
Very close to Frankfurt. There is also mentioned that the Arpeggione was played with a violin bow.
So that's also an interesting thing. You also ended up with a violin bow, right?
Exactly.
Because I think we first played this piece, you used a viola bow.
Exactly.
So how come you changed to a violin bow? What happened? How did you find the perfect bow? Because that's
So the first thought for a cellist, as I am, is to play with the cello bow. So I tried.
Oh yes, sure.
I tried with the cello bow. I remember a very heavy one.
Yes.
And this instrument is very small, so it's not fitting at all.
It's even smaller than other Arpeggione instruments, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So it's a small one, let's say.
It's a small one. So I found a viola bow what fitted very good.
Yes, I remember. It was nice.
It was very nice.
So what happened?
What happened is that the viola bow was not mine.
Okay.
And it was not from the college. And we were searching more. And then we came up in the end with this bow, which fits very good with this instrument.
It's a violin bow, actually.
Yeah, so it's longer than a cello bow a little bit. It feels also very much longer, because on the Arpeggione you can play one note, like a very slow bow, and it sounds like eternity.
We have a spot like this in
Exactly.
the piece, actually.
There is
right?
a spot also where cellists tend to reduce the length of
Right.
this high. It's an E.
It's an E.
Yes.
Yes.
Should we try this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you mentioned how many frets you have? 24, right?
Exactly.
So when do you use the arpeggios?
When
Probably in the end, right?
no,
No?
not in the end. Let's take the first movement.
The first. That's it.
That's
okay.
it.
And that's also on the cello probably quite difficult.
No, because they octavated. So
They oh okay. They played an octave lower.
yeah, they have some different octavations. So they are intended for their instrument. It's totally fine.
What about the octaves? Tadi.
Yeah, they are interesting because there's one place, I don't know why Schubert wrote that, because yeah, because these octaves here in the slur, how can you play that?
Yeah, how do you play that?
I play it like I do the chords in between. So I have even more sound. So thank you a lot for
Thank you
listening.
for inviting us and thank you for listening. And well, hope to meet you in person someday, but until then, greetings from Frankfurt.
Bye.
Bye.